just from your experience, like what were the traditional approaches that either facilities or sort of help centers were using that kind of you sort of saw
So
that
there
could
was a
be
big
improved on?
disconnect between the clinical knowledge and applying that to real life. So um, typically we respond to people once they're in severe distress, and then in a workplace wellbeing setting, we often rely on those surface level strategies, the one-off initiatives, the apps, the deep breathing exercises that, kind of assume that people have the spare capacity and time to actually implement those. So in reality, most people, especially in high pressure industries such as construction, they're already running really close to an empty tank. So the biggest gap is that we focus on the insight without actually implementing the infrastructure. So people need to understand what they should really be doing, but the way that their work, the time, their responsibilities are structured, that follow through is actually really, really difficult. And it's why a lot of wellbeing initiatives don't actually stick. They rely on motivation instead of a system of design. So typically what I see is a chronic nervous system that's just overactivated. And so obviously people are constantly problem solving, they're managing risks, absorbing pressure, holding responsibilities, often without enough recovery time actually built in to, their weekly or daily routines. So it's not just creating stress. That doesn't just create stress. It changes how people think and react and actually relate to others. So when your nervous system is just under this constant load, your emotional regulation drops, your tolerance for things and people, it just shrinks drastically. Your reactivity increases. So people don't become less capable. It's just their capacity gets eaten up very, very quickly.
You talked about recovery time and recovery there for a second. I kind of want to just maybe point that out or maybe focus in on that. Like everyone, I don't know, I think everybody
Mm.
knows about recovery for your muscles and like going to the gym, you need to have like your protein shake. Like, oh, I need to get my recovery in after a big long run or cycle or gym session or whatever. Is it the same for your sort of mental health
Yeah,
and sort of
absolutely. So
psychology as well?
the right nutrition and exercise is absolutely fantastic for recovery and just kind of putting your mind in a different zone other than work. But there's also different things we can implement instead of just the exercise side of things. So a lot of people, when they want to wind down, it's the phone and the scrolling and the scrolling. And it might serve as like an immediate dopamine release and it's taking your mind off things, but it's actually eating up more of your capacity because when you're just flooding your mind with all this information, all these different sounds and stimulants, it might work in the short term, but long term, we're finding that it's just diminishing capacity again. So there are some other strategies. Reading is great, spending time with your family, doing things you enjoy, whether that's cooking, going for walks, hikes, whatever it might be, prioritizing those instead of just immediately sitting down and just mindlessly scrolling. There's better alternatives out there.